Welcome, everybody, to the 101st episode of the Sales Podcast. We're changing things up here when we hit 100, and it's the new year, 2015, so why not? Today we've got Mr. Jim Keenan. Goes by Keenan, kind of like Madonna or Bono or Sting, you know. The dude is just so good. He just has one name, Keenan. He owns a salesguy.com. Cool dude, great insights. I think you are going to love it. He ran sales teams for 20 years, and his insight into what it takes to go out on your own. He talks about your biggest asset. You're going to want to pay attention to that. He talks about a couple of things there when it comes to that. He had been blogging for a while. He talks about how you have to stick with things. It doesn't happen overnight, okay? There's no silver bullets. You've heard me say that over and over and over again. But Jim has a great story, how he went out on his own, how he is now branching out. He's got multiple streams of income, multiple streams of revenue. And he's making big things happen as he grows his own business. So enjoy this interview with Jim Keenan. The salesman known as Keenan, all the way from Denver, Colorado. Welcome to the Sales Podcast, man. How are you?
Good, thank you. Really good. Ready to kill it.
You better, because you know you came to us through John Ferrara from Nimble fame. I said, who should I interview? Not only were you the first one he mentioned, you were the only one. So no pressure. I know you can handle it, being the sales pro that you are.
Got to carry a big stick, man. Carrying a big stick. Better be able to swing it. You're going to carry it. You better be able to swing it.
Better swing it. Better bring it. So for our listeners that may not know who you are, would you mind taking a minute or two, tell us a little bit about asalesguy.com and how you came to be known as just Keenan?
Yeah, I mean, the Sales Guy, it's my blog and the parent company to a Sales Guy Recruiting and a Sales Guy Consulting. Have two divisions. Okay. Been around for, 3.5 years, 4 years now. I ran sales teams for 20 years, all over the place, all different types of sales, big teams, small teams. And about 3.5 years ago, I decided to, more than that. 5 or 6 years ago, I decided to blog, tell everybody what I'm doing. Okay. And after 2 years, I figured, it'd be a good little resource if I ever wanted to switch jobs. Just write, hey, I'm leaving jobs, and these people have been following me, and they would be helpful hand. Instead of people started writing saying, hey, I need help. Can you help me? Can you help me? So after a couple of those, I said, shit, why I keep working for the man when I can do it this way? So I left my last company and started the consulting division. It's been going great ever since. So that's that. And, yeah, go.
So walk us through that transition. I mean, a lot of people that are listening, really everybody, they fall in one of two buckets. Either they're just a W-2 sales guy trying to make it, or they are maybe in sales or some type of ownership, but trying to go out on their own. So how did you make that transition? Because it sounds easy, but, most people that I've interviewed that made that transition, they lived under their means, right? They had a little bit of a nest egg. They derived a little bit of income coming in. So they didn't just jump out cold turkey. But, I mean, can you walk us through that transition?
Yeah, it's yes, I can. It's interesting. When people talk about going out on their own, specifically when it comes to consulting or selling, you always hear the conversation around capital. They lived under their means. They had money put aside. They had a ramp. And yeah, I guess for some people that would work, but really that bank account is not the biggest asset you need to make the transition. The biggest asset you need to make the transition is awareness and reach around the area you want to get into. So what made the transition for me wasn't the day I decided to do it. It was the 2 years I had been blogging about sales leadership, sales management, pipeline development, account development. I mean, I had, 2 years, 3 years, I had about 700 posts, if not more, on this topic, and had built an audience day by day, person by person for 2 years. So when someone finally wrote me a note and said, hey, I'm having a problem with my sales manager, would you be willing to help us out? That was the asset that was more valuable to me. Yes, having some money aside, et cetera, helped, but it wasn't just turning a switch, right? I had an awareness, and that asset, that was that reach and awareness. That's the key.
Right. So I don't know why John recommended I interview you. I mean, you couldn't just flip a switch and overnight just do this. I mean, it took you 2 years. Come on, man. What's happening? You're not overnight sensation. You don't have a silver bullet,
dude. Every silver bullet has got some real story behind it. If you wanted media coverage to give you a silver bullet, yes, then you could have taken a media approach. Because to a lot of people, I was overnight. No one heard of me, then everybody heard of me. But what most people don't understand is there's almost never a silver bullet. It never happens overnight. And the greatest example of that for me is, do you remember Fran Dresser?
Sure.
Fran. Yes. So she heard that show, and she kind of came out of nowhere. Overnight success, right?
Sure.
Watch Saturday Night Fever sometime. Yes, she is in that movie with a little tiny role where she walks up to John and asks him to dance. So, did you ever see Fast Times at Ridgemont High?
Dude.
Yes. You ever see the cook who makes the burgers in the burger scene?
All right.
That's Nicolas
Go back
Cage.
and look at it.
Nicolas Cage. Right?
Yeah.
I think he has one line. The point being is, we're served up on a platter this idea of overnight success, and we're served up on a platter this idea that things just happen real fast. But the truth of the matter is 99% of the time, it doesn't.
Right.
And there's always a real story behind the overnight success.
So walk us through your initial pricing, because I know we all go through this. I'm expanding in some new territories and figuring out pricing. So here you are blogging, kind of doing your own thing, and somebody says, hey, can you, after like probably multiple requests, you're like, I probably should do something here. And they say, can you come train us or whatever? And you're like, yeah, is that $50? Is it $500? Is it $5,000? I mean, how'd you come up with pricing, and how has that evolved?
So great question. So the first thing I did was I just picked a number out of the sky, right? So I looked at what I was working, right, how much I was being paid and what that equated to an hour, and I wanted to make more than that, right? So I picked a number out, and I came up with an hourly rate, and I threw it out to this person, and they said, okay, that works. No pushback or anything. And I was like, oh, man, I may have messed up. So for the first, 3 months, maybe first 6 months, I did hourly.
Okay.
And then I had a conversation with a friend, and he told me this story. He said, now I'm going to butcher it, and it could even be urban legend, but the message is not lost, okay? So there was a story about a guy from Westinghouse who understood AC/DC better than anybody. This is back in the early turn of the century, 1900s.
Great
right?
band. They've been around that long?
Yes, great band. Yes, right? Great. Yes, great band. So a guy from Westinghouse understood AC/DC better than anybody. GE was having a problem with something, and they asked this guy if he could help. And he said, yes, no problem, $10,000. Now, remember, this is the early 1900s. So he shows up. He walks in with all the engineers. He takes a look at whatever it is they had the problem with. He fiddled with it for a while, and after about 15, 20 minutes, he goes, oh, here's the problem. And he fixed it, right? So he bills them, and he comes back, and after billing them the 10 grand, he got a letter from the GE saying, look, we really appreciate everything you did. It was awesome. Thank you. But you're only here 15 minutes. Don't you think $10,000 is a lot of money? And he said, well, the 1,000 was only for the 15 minutes. The 9,000 was for knowing what to do.
Yep.
And so when he told me that story, I stopped doing hourly, and I started changing my pricing so that it mapped to the return of what an organization was getting. So if it's a giant organization and I can affect change in sales by 1%, and they do $100 million, that's $1 million. So if I come in at even 1/4 of that, they've made a lot of money. Mm-hmm. So that's how I do it now. All my pricing is based on what I think I can move the needle, the value to the organization, not on time.
Right. And that's easier said than done, right? Because we always say, charge, based on value. But people, and this is probably what you get into with your clients, I imagine, is helping them realize the true value of what they do and offer. I mean, we underestimate the value of our own knowledge, so we don't charge enough, then we don't charge enough, and then the clients don't respect us, and then you have crappy clients, and then you have a crappy life, and you go back to working at the post office.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. Yeah.
So how do you help people figure out their own value, first of all? Because you got to internalize it. You have to know that you bring that much value. Then you have to have the cojones to ask for that much money.
Yeah. So, my business doesn't necessarily help consultants build consulting businesses, right? But when someone comes and asks me and says, Jim, how do you charge? I'm thinking about charging. What I do is I say, first, what are you selling? What do you know? Like, what are you bringing to the table? How have you packaged that, right? So a lot of it comes in packaging, and I don't mean fluffy packaging, but you got to be really clear and specific about what you're bringing to an organization. So when a company calls me and says, hey, we're thinking about your services, or we read about you, or we're having this problem, we're having that problem, how does it work? What I do is I break it down across 4 pillars, okay? When I work with an organization, I look at their strategy, their structure, their salespeople, and their sales process. The argument is across all 4 of those, if you have a sales organization that's not performing, I can find the problem in one and or all of those areas. Okay. So I bring that system or that structure, and then I ask them a lot of questions about where they want to be, where they are now, et cetera, et cetera. And I can calculate in my head pretty quickly how much impact I can have in an organization and what I think the value would be. And I say, okay, great, I work on a monthly retainer. Here's my rate. This is what we're going to do. This is what you can expect in the end. And they say, fantastic, or they throw up all over it. I don't care either way.
Mm-hmm. When I get into training, I tell people, it's important to get the prospect to put a dollar figure on their pain. Westinghouse, right? Well, we got this thing not working right. Well, how much is this setting you back? How big of a pain is it? It's $100,000 a month. Oh, okay. So what's that over a year? $1.2 million. Okay. Right. So, do you get in that granular, make them express, themselves? Because until they hear it come out of their own mouth, they may not truly understand how big their own pain is.
What you just said was perfect. I do that, but I'm not so direct. It's a little more subtle. Right. I ask them similar questions. I said, okay, tell me, what was your sales objectives this year? Mm-hmm. 30 million. Fantastic. What where are you tracking to now? 20 million. Okay, they're about 10 million off. That's not good, right? Tell me about the team. Tell me about this. Tell me about it is one of my favorite lines. Tell me about this. Tell me about that. And as I dig in, tell me what you've done. What have you invested in? And once I get all that information, what happens if you don't get to the 30 million, right? Here's a perfect example. Sometimes it's not an issue of price, it's an issue of affordability. And people miss that up. Price says, I don't want to pay, or I don't like the way it feels. Affordability says, I just don't have it.
Yep.
Right? So first, if someone just doesn't have it, there's a million men out there who would buy a Porsche tomorrow if they had the money.
Right.
So it is about price, not about value. If you don't have it, you don't have it. It's the people that have the money that say it's too expensive. Now that's a value conversation.
Right.
So first you got to differentiate between those two. So sometimes I could have someone say, I've missed it, and they turn out to be a manufacturer, and so their margin is like 5%. So when you're off in sales by that big, they don't have any money.
Yeah.
So so it doesn't matter how much value they see, it doesn't matter how important it is to them. The truth of the matter is, they just don't have the money.
Mm-hmm.
Other times it's they have the money and they just don't know where or how to spend it, or they can't see, like you described, how they can where they can improve and what value they can get out of making the changes. So once I understand where they are and what they're doing, I paint a picture about how the world would be different, or what we would do to get them to where they want to go, and they do the math in their head.
Right.
They do the math in their head. Mm-hmm.
So is that what you're doing? So you got these different structures, right? You've got sales guy recruiting, sales guy consulting, but you have other training programs and things for individuals, right? Nope. I'm
not a trainer.
Okay.
Nope. A full consultant. So on the consulting side, it's just me right now. Although I have to change that because I'm starting to build a wait list. I can't take on all the clients that I need to work with. But so I work with them, and it's strictly senior level consulting. We come in and, like I said, I'll look at your existing sales strategy. I'll look at the existing underlying structure. I'll look at the existing people. We'll look at the existing processes, and we will make fundamental changes to those to set you up for success.
Gotcha.
Right? If salespeople need training, we recognize it's a people problem, but you have the right people in the right roles with the wrong knowledge base, that's a training issue. I'll recommend a training company to come in. If we have the wrong people in the wrong roles, then we got to get new people. If we have the right people in the right roles with the wrong structure, then we're going to restructure the organization. Do you see what I'm saying?
Sure.
It's literally a real-world consulting environment.
Yeah.
On the recruiting side, it's straight up recruiting. I have 5 recruiters, and they're great people, and we go out and find some of the best sales talent around.
And that's so you focus just on salespeople?
Yes. Revenue generating. So marketing, sales, inside sales, senior vice president sales. Yeah, the whole gamut, but just revenue generating.
Cool. So what's up with the swag, man? Do you sell it? You sell the hat and the T-shirts, or you just buy them for yourself?
No, we give them away. So
cool.
one of the things we do with our clients is anytime someone has been placed with a sales guy recruiting, after their first month we're stretching a little because sometimes people don't make it, but in the main, we send out a box. I had one. I would show it to you. We send out a box that includes a sales guy T-shirt, and a sales guy earphones, and a sales guy what else? A water bottle, and a book from Dan Waldschmidt, who should be an interview for you. Great guy, Dan Waldschmidt. He wrote a book called Edgy Conversations. Got to check it out.
Edgy Conversation. All right, I'm writing this down.
Yeah. Got to check it out. So a book from him and an iPad mini.
What?
Every single person that gets hired by one of our clients gets one of those.
That gets hired by, I got you. So you place them, so you send it to the candidate that got the job.
Yep.
Nice.
Nice welcome thing. Yeah, we're all about being different. So we got some cool swag, and we throw it. And then, of course, we send a box to our clients, minus the iPad mini. They don't need it, but they like the swag. And then anybody that ever does something really cool by a sales guy or presents themselves a badass or something, we just throw it to them for no reason.
Yeah. Very cool.
Thank you.
I'm going to have to check that out. Maybe you should place me, but wait a minute. Yeah. I am unemployable. Don't do that. I would hurt your averages. All right. So you were in sales, and then you were just a W-2 guy, right? Just working your way through corporate America, selling, sales management. I mean, did you have any special training and certification to make you this consulting guru? Did you figure, hey, I know what the hell I'm doing. I'm just going to go out and go do it?
So no, I didn't have any training. I mean, I had on-the-job training, right? So by the time I had been throughout my career, by the time I decided to quit, I had run sales organizations from as big as 300 million in revenue, 125 people nationwide at 4 layers. So vice president, director, manager, individual contributor, to in startups and helping them get up off the ground, to mid-level. So I had done it all, seen it all. Well, I've done a lot, seen a lot. I think and I was also very deliberate. My approach as a sales leader was to seek out the problems and be very deliberate in developing the processes, approaches, or solutions that would solve the problems I was struggling with as a sales leader. So over the time, I built this repository of different methodologies or processes that I had built. So for instance, I built a sales team assessment tool that allowed me to assess my team across the critical elements to being successful, either by the individual, by the trait, or by the team, by the trait. So it was like a 4-quadrant. It was amazing. I could do in seconds. So I built a account management or account, what do you call it when you manage? Yeah, I guess account management, right? Sure. Account management plan or document. So if you're a farmer and you have to manage an account, a big account, I built a very robust plan that would increase the chances of being successful. So I blogged about all of this stuff, and I offered people chances to download this stuff. And so I think what happened is just over time, I didn't feel certified, but the world told me I was, because I was doing things in my job that other people just didn't do.
Yeah.
Right? Most people, you said it's interesting, you said it 2 or 3 times, you're just a W-2 employee. Most people move through life looking at themselves like that. I'm just a W-2 employee. And where they were the VP, and in some cases, I'll go so far as to say even some CEOs just look at themselves as being hired and never stop and say, wait a minute, I'm a creator. My job is to create shit to do better at this job. They don't do that. Yeah. I did. So all of a sudden I had this huge basket of stuff that other people were like, damn, I want that. And that validated me. So
what did your companies think about you putting this information online? Did you ever get any pushback?
No, I created it all myself. So no.
Okay. So that's, what you're talking about there, that's an important, that's kind of a silver bullet. It's at least a golden nugget, because there's always 2 sides of the same coin, right? People, we undervalue what we know, but I think too few people take time to really document it, to have that body of work, so you could go out on your own, because you you weren't winging it, right? You said, man, I've got all this. You took the time and the discipline to write this stuff down in the form of a blog, and you had these tools, you had these Excel spreadsheets and Word documents and whatever. So it's like, hey, here are the results, and you know what? I can do it for you too. So, so I mean, anybody listening, if you want to go out on your own, pay attention. Take note of what you've done for your company, and then float it out there, right? See if there's some interest in it, because I assure you, if your company's paying you to create that stuff, somebody else will pay you to create it as well. Worst case, ask for a raise, right, and stay where you are.
What's interesting, that I hate to sound negative, but the truth of the matter is, I see it more and more now that I have the recruiting division. You should see some of the stuff that's sent to me from people who are interested in a job. But also when I go into corporations and I work with the vice president of sales, or I'm looking at a sales team, I hate to sound this way, but people hear me. You are probably shitty at your job. That's all there's to it. You don't want to hear it. And I can say that because the odds are 8 out of 10 people who are doing their job right now suck at it, and you don't want to admit it. And so for the two of you that I offended, I apologize. And you're probably not offended because you've seen it too, and you know I'm damn well right. The rest of you, get real. Get real with how you approach your job. If you have not created a process on your own to fundamentally change how you get something done, or how to achieve the goals that are put in front of you, or how to make something easier, if you've not fundamentally changed that or created a process and it's in front of you and you can share it with somebody, I can tell you right now you're average.
Yep.
So stop thinking about going out and selling yourself as a product, because nobody wants an average product.
Well, they say 50% of people are below average.
And that's being generous.
It's fantastic. So, all right. So let's say somebody's listening to this and they've got a sales team, and small team, big team, doesn't matter. What are some of the most common things you see? What are the things like you walk in like every time, 9 times out of 10, out of your 4, strategy, structure, sales, people, sales process? I mean, what are just the common mistakes that somebody listening to could maybe address right now?
People and process are the two biggest ones, right? I mean, most people don't have strategy, or they operate, with a strategy in their head. So, look, I make sure we have them, but at the end of the day, people can flounder around and they operate from a strategy and they get there. Or the company can set the strategy and they go execute against it. But people and process are where most people fall down the most, right? They don't really have a good approach or underlying process to identify good people. They never stopped and really defined what it takes to be successful in that role. They're not comfortable being uncomfortable in leading people or getting rid of people who aren't working. One of my favorite terms is correct or eject. Almost every company I've gone into, there has been a whole handful of people that should not have been there.
Yep.
And people are surprised when I point it out, or they argue why they're afraid to fire them, or they just had a baby, or whatever. And I'm like, look, I'm not telling you to fire people, but you didn't even know they're underperformers.
Right.
You didn't even know they can't get this job done. And as a leader, I mean, are you kidding? And then the other one is process, just how the underlying processes they put in place to execute. So I guess if I had to give you a sort of another nugget, most people screw up in the execution phase. They have no clue how to execute whatsoever.
Well, would you say they... I mean, I know. I just look. It's like, how can we boil that down for people, right? Because you can't execute if you don't have a strategy. You can't execute if you don't have structure. You can't execute, if I got Shaquille O'Neal on my team and I'm trying to win the Kentucky Derby, I'm going to have a tough time executing. I mean, there's just...
Good. So start with people.
Yeah.
So good. Look, I can tell you the team that didn't have Shaquille O'Neal and not a strategy isn't going to do as well than the team with Shaquille O'Neal and out of strategy.
Right.
So start with people, because people have to execute. So start with them. Make sure you've got the best people in place. Make sure you know why they're good. Make sure you know what they're good at. Provide coaching on a regular basis. There's another one. No one coaches. It's all performance reviews or leave them alone. So I'm a big fan of creating a really solid coaching process that allows you to identify the areas the individuals can get better.
Yep. And
coach them on getting better. Not performance review. That's judgment, right? You did a good job. You didn't do a good job. I like what you're doing. I don't like what you're doing. Coaching is, hey, I observed this. This is what I saw. This is what I suggest to get better.
Right.
So there's a good example. process. Ask yourself, if you're doing something, why are you doing it? What's the point? What's the end objective? If you solve those two, you're going to go miles.
Do you think, is corporate America, is it just full of people that just fail forward? And that's why they're not doing this, or not? They were never coached, so they don't coach. That, it's just chase the dollar, maximize profit, and they just are a victim of their circumstance, and they just perpetuate the same bad habits. Because I see it everywhere too. I had a million jobs. I'd make money, I'd get laid off from a tech firm, or I'd make money and I'd piss off the boss because I'm like, this is stupid the way you do things. Or I'd get recruited away by somebody like you, a flesh peddler out there finding me bigger jobs. And it was usually always bad, at the end of the day.
So why don't they do it? I think it's a lot of reasons. I think that one of the reasons is because organizations don't know how to do it. I think another one, as you described, they're so quick to want to get to the dollar. So they feel coaching and other things are circuitous. They aren't a direct line. They don't invest in tomorrow. The pressures as they funnel down, right? I got all this stuff I've got to get done. I can't stop. But Stephen Covey had a great point about sharpening the saw. I think too many people are afraid to stop and sharpen the saw.
Right.
So I got to keep moving. I got to keep that saw going back and forth. I know it's dull, but I can't afford to stop. Yep. The feeling that comes with stopping, even if knowing sharpening it and going again is going to be more effective, is just too painful.
Well, they're bringing you in, so somebody's realizing it's time to sharpen the saw, right? Do they only bring you in, when there's a compound fracture and, they're going into shock? Or are you seeing anybody, or maybe a trend where they're being a little more proactive about bringing you in to take it to the next level rather than keep them from hitting rock bottom?
Yeah, I would say 50% of my clients are scaling opportunities.
Okay.
In other words, the head of sales or the CEO recognizes that they're at a place where they need to get to the next level and they don't know how. Yep. So that's easily 50% of my business is that. And then the rest is either they're flat and they can't figure out how to just grow again. So they don't need to necessarily scale the company, but they need to scale revenue. Right. And then there are those people who are going the wrong direction and they're moving down. Is
it the John Wayne myth, of go it alone that keeps them from calling you? Do managers see themselves as weak because they can't do it on their own? They got to bring in this outsider?
That's a great question. And I think if I knew the answer to that, I'd have even a bigger company. I think it's probably that, but I think that's probably a symptom of a bigger issue, and is you don't know what you don't know. Mm-hmm. One of the things, and a metaphor I use quite often with salespeople when it comes to selling, for a different reason, but the metaphor fits here, is if I don't know that the airplane exists, when I'm trying to get from Boston to LA, I'm not calling an airline. Mm-hmm. Right? And even if I have to get there in 4 days, I'm trying to figure out how I do things faster, right? I'm trying to figure out if I get Pony Express and make them keep running. Yeah, I'm trying to push what I know, the boundaries of what I know, and until I know there's a plane, I can't even be called stubborn. I just don't know what I don't know. And right. I think that's the piece right there. A lot of them just don't know there actually are other ways. They've been doing it a long time. They've been successful. They think they know it all.
So as a business owner yourself, how do you get the word out? How do you help these sales guys and executives know that you even exist so they are aware of what they don't know?
Keep blogging. Keep putting out. If you go to a sales guy, right? Or you go to a salesguy.com and then pick a sales guy, like a university. I've got, 14, 15, 16 ebooks across all kinds of different topics. I've got 26 videos. I've got 8, 9, 10, 11 different sales resources, which are, everything from a Word doc to a Excel spreadsheet to whatever, all affecting different problems or challenges that sales leaders face or salespeople face. So between continually to blog, maintaining that asset, remember this whole conversation started with this asset of having reach and knowledge. that's how they find me. And so a lot of times I don't have to say anything. They'll go out and read one of my ebooks and say, hey, I like what you said there, or I'm having that problem.
Right.
I write for Forbes. That's how Forbes found me. So now I write for Forbes. That drives more people to me. So to me, the secret to what you described, to getting found and getting people to know you do it, constantly put out content that solves a problem people are facing, keep staying in the public, be very open, and people will find you on their own. And eventually, just as long as they come to you, you better have damn good content. That's the key. They come to you and you got crap and you're hosed.
So did you try to get found by Forbes, or did you get referred in? How'd that happen?
Got referred in.
Cool.
And I got referred in because it's I won't bore you with the whole thing, but once I started writing the blog, person A found me. Person A told person B. Person B told this group of people. This group of people asked me to participate in like a little group they have. Then that group got me more exposure, and that person did. And so over the last 6 years almost, in February, 6 years, it's just built on itself. Then I got listed as a top sales world, one of the top 50 sales and marketing people on the web. Well, that happened in 12, 13, and 14.
Wow.
And then from that, other people, I mean, it just snowballs on itself.
Right.
And it all comes back to every time someone recommended me or found my blog, they came to it and saw something of value.
Right.
And so they say, oh, this is good. Let me show so-and-so or tell so-and-so.
Well, this keeps getting worse. I mean, it took you 2 years to leave, 6 years to get found. Good grief. Man, this sounds like work. What? I got to end this interview. Where's the stop button?
It is work.
Yep. Amen, man. Work. Well, you are making it happen. And I'm glad John sent me your way. So how do we send people your way? You mentioned a sales guy and the letter U, right?
So if you just go to salesguy.com,
okay,
that's my blog, and that's a hub for everything else. You can find the speaker link, you can find the recruiting link, you can find the Sales Guy U link, all up in the top right-hand corner in the nav. So you can get to the rest of the Sales Guy world by simply starting at salesguy.com.
Right. Very cool, man. Well, feel free to send me some swag. I'll sport it. As you can see, I look good in the hat, forward or backwards. It's all,
Medium or large? I mean, medium was large? Yeah, large. It is. Yes. Atlas Shrugged. All right, we'll get you a hat. Hit me up in an email with your
Atlas Shrugged. You see my book?
No, you went like this.
I did read that book.
Yes, so that was
a good book.
Yes.
Who is John Galt, huh?
There you go.
All right, Keenan. Thank you for coming on the show, man.
I enjoyed it. Thank you very much.
Stay warm in Denver.
You got it, baby.
Told you it was good, huh? I love the part where he talked about, he was very deliberate in fixing his own issues, and he saved that information. He built account management plans, documents. He blogged about it. He offered it as free downloads, right? He didn't think he was that special, but the world told him he was. I say this all the time. Everybody underestimates the value of their knowledge, of your skills, of your talents. You can charge good money for the things that you know, the things that you can do in your sleep. Okay, so figure out how to take that to market. That's where having an outsider help, somebody like me, somebody like Jim or Keenan, right? Find a coach, find a mentor, somebody that does training, somebody that can walk you through figuring out your exact talents and strengths and help you figuring out a market for it and put a price on it. And I assure you, the price is higher than you think. So in your first deal or probably your first month of getting deals, you will pay more than pay for the coach and the outside help that you get, okay? But document what you do. People need instructions, detailed instructions, okay? They will pay for it. They will share that information. I always say give away your best stuff up front for free. So share this info. The do-it-yourselfers will go do it, and then they won't nag you. They won't bug you, okay? They won't ask for a discount. And others that don't want to do it on their own, they'll see how difficult it is, and then they'll pay you to come do it, okay? So get out there and make things happen, all right? Thanks for listening. I hope that January and 2015 are off to a great start. If you need additional help to grow your sales, please check out 30daysalesgrowth.com. or just give me a call. Visit thesaleswhisperer.com, and you can see all my contact info right there. And we will figure out a way to help you grow more better, make more money. As always, remember to sell different.